that the central processing unit can talk to every other peripheral. He's under 60 years old. He's black. He's the vice president of IBM. Holds a number of major patents in the world. You know, everywhere you look, you can find us. Joseph Emma is under 60 years old, lives in this area. He was the one who did the groundbreaking work, linking I think some 60,000 computers together. He programmed the computers at the Los Alamos lab in New Mexico over the telephone. Didn't go there because he didn't want to be discriminated against. Did it over the telephone and laid the basis for the internet. African Origins and Major World Religions by Dr. Ben and Dr. Finch and some other people. Yes, sir.
Even the way, I mean, if you got to do a lot of research, even the way we sit on the toilet stool is improper because for better evacuation, it's better I have a stool home and I think I got Brother Bays. You're supposed to be, the knee's supposed to be up and evacuation becomes easier.
Same way the women have to get better.
Yeah.
You use natural gravity rather than fight against gravity.
Right.
Brother, your lights again, I'm sorry.
Dr. Mark Dean.
Mark Dean. Mark Dean is the vice president of IBM. He's the one, thank you very much, he's the one who discovered the way to make peripherals talk to the CPU. That's the tape drive, the screen, the keyboard, D-E-A-N. Dr. Mark Dean, M-A-R-K-D-E-A-N. Without Mark Dean, the CPU, the central processing unit, would be a box sitting there, wouldn't be able to do nothing. Africa, the birthplace for the birth and development of science, the birth and development of engineering technology. We still cannot duplicate the pyramids. All of our modern knowledge. 70 years ago, some Japanese tried. A bunch of Egyptians tried to build a pyramid to give up frustration. We don't know how they moved those stones.
Can't do it.
The birth and development of medicine. I'll elaborate more in a few minutes. The birth of writing. Writing starts in Africa. The birth of architecture. The birth of philosophy and psychology starts in Africa. Birth of navigation. Birth of language. Birth of all the arts. Africa. I want to expand talking about some of the medical things, just so you have an idea how sophisticated medicine was in Africa. Primarily, we're talking about Egypt at this point, because that was the place where it reached its height. There's a papyrus called the Khartoum Medical Papyrus. These various papyri are named different ways based upon who now has possession of them. This particular papyrus scroll is in Khartoum. It's a compendium of information about women's diseases and pregnancies. The Edwin C. Smith Papyrus is now owned by the Edwin C. Smith Collection. A comparative surgical text, an anatomical inquiry, has sections on the spinal column. The London Medical Papyrus, now in the London Museum, a 28th dynasty theoretical document on medicine, religion, magic, and philosophy. An important part of this particular document, it talks about the connection between prayer and healing. Something that just now is being rediscovered in the Western world. They've done studies in the last 4 or 5 years that say that when they report, I can't testify to it, but they report that people who have been prayed for, who are ill, have gotten better faster than a similar group who are not prayed for, even if the folks who are being prayed for didn't even know they were being prayed for.
Whoa.
Sir.
I had a friend of mine who was in his wife was in a very serious accident, and the prognosis wasn't good, and the church he went to, you know, they set aside the whole period of time where the whole church prayed for her, and she made a miraculous recovery. You know, so I mean that's an illustration of what you're saying.
along these same lines, this has been established by a doctor who did practice up until recently in D.C. That's Reverend Dr. Larry Darcy, who would pray with his patients. When you would go to him, he would ask, would it be okay if we prayed together? And he did this a number of times, and then they confirmed this in the lab. And he's working with others now. And also there's a book out about a young man who had a hole in his head. And he actually recovered, just as you were speaking of the person that you heard of. This young man worked with some others, and they prayed, and that hole went away. And there's a number of cases like this.
Here we're talking about 1554 to 1305 BCE. Add 2,000 years to that. 3,500 years ago, they were talking about the connection between prayer and healing in Egypt. And we just now in the Western world beginning to discover that. The Hirsch Medical Papyrus, a 28th dynasty masterpiece of specialized medical practices. Those are just a few of the papyri. There's one in Berlin, the Berlin Medical Papyrus, a 19th dynasty reflection of the work presented in the Ebers and Hirsch Papyrus, with acute emphasis on determination of pregnancy and fertility. So this particular papyrus, the Berlin Papyrus, was similar to our modern medical journals. It didn't just talk about conditions, it commented on previous writings about conditions, which is what our medical journals do these days. The Chester Beatty Medical Papyrus, writings of Tet and Menahotep on diagnostic medicine. Actually, some of those things, along with the ones that I've compiled those out of various books. Yes.
Okay.
For instance, I passed around the one by Finch on medical history. You got it in your hand. Yeah.
Right.
Finch talks here about the various papyri. Yes.
Okay.
I'm getting ready to go to a slide that Baba put together. Bob Irby here put together some time ago in our study group. Look, everyday little things that we can trace right back to Africa. Home air conditioning systems, utilizing ice and evaporation, goes back at least 3,000 BC, 5,000 years ago. They knew how to cool places using ice and using evaporation. The use of the word amen. From all over Western world, we're saying amen. That comes right out of Egypt. Hot and cold running water in the bathroom. A separate room for sleeping. You call it the bedroom. Birth control. They knew how women could use certain plants and things as spermicides to keep down births. The concept of the birthday party. Board games. Senate and checkers. Right out of Africa. Of course, the domestication of the cat came after the dog. Right there in Africa. Cats are more picky than dogs. They're harder to work with.
If you think about it, your birthday, celebrate your birthday with gifts. Really, it's not your birthday. It's your mother's birthday and your Earth Day. And that, you know, and these are some of the things that these concepts we take it for granted. And really, you know, we have to, a lot of backtracking, and some of these books I hope to find out, you know, what it is. But it's just like you say, small things, terminologies, and that we use every day, like hell is low. Hello. Those words, and from the bottom of your heart, I say the top of from the top of your heart. So you know, you think about these things and turn them around. Like the Civil War, what was civil about a war? So all these things, boy, you really have to really think about them. We just use them. We just use them, take them for granted.
You mentioned that somebody got in trouble in a business meeting. I think you used the term niggardly, right?
Was in DC government.
Yeah. It's a perfectly good term, right? But it's an allusion to black folks being lazy. Black folks, niggardly, lazy.
But the guy tried to say that he wasn't saying that because the black people in the meeting got offended, and then this guy said he got ran out of the organization because he was afraid of black people.
No,
because he said it means stingy, but like you said, the word has more of a background than just stingy.
Yeah, a lot of allusions come out of the Bible. A lot of them come out of Shakespeare. If you're not familiar with the Bible, not familiar with Shakespeare, then a lot of stuff goes over your head. Yeah. And it's very important, as Brother Bama said, that you know how to speak the language. I'm convinced a lot of people probably don't watch the news because a lot of these terms are used in the news.
Yeah.
If you don't understand what they're talking about, you stop listening. What's the golden parachute?
I'll take a shot at that. I believe that's when
Who is
I
it? Who is the
refer,
book?
big reference to it when you have an executive
Right here.
that leaves a company
And make Corcoran the other one, that one, Joe.
Go ahead.
and that's the compensation, generous compensation that they get.
Is it delusions or illusions?
So somebody leaves a company and they get a big payoff to leave the company. Golden parachute. From the world of business, an apt term for a settlement that cushions the landing of an executive after ejection from a high-level position. Now, I saw on the TV the other day that the woman who's the head of the Red Cross has announced she's going to leave. She'll probably come out with a golden parachute. She got to leave. They're getting rid of her, but they're going to make it a little easier landing. They'll give her some money.
Past president of American
University.
Yeah, they give him about $1 million, right?
Did they ever challenge? Did they ever challenge that successfully?
Yeah, they'll fire me for $1 million.
Is that what you said? Delusions or illusions?
Illusion, A-L-L.
Associated with something.
The Barnhart Dictionary Companion speculates that the parachute may come from the 1982 job-changing handbook, What Color is Your Parachute?
Yeah.
By Richard Bowles. As Bowles put it, I hate to tell you this, but the time to figure out where your parachute is, what color it is, and to strap it on is now. And not when the vocational airplane that you are presently in is on fire and diving toward the ground. So you better get out while you can.
Make it more clear than that.
Another version is the golden handshake, a lucrative severance deal given to a high-salaried executive who's been fired, forced into retirement, or bought out as a part of a corporate power play or takeover. An example from a May 26, 1988 report in the Washington Post on the congressional reaction to U.S. government efforts to coax Panamanian strongman Manuel Noriega to step down from power. Quote, Senate Minority Leader Robert J. Dole, Republican of Kansas, appeared to sum up the dominant sentiment when he said, Noriega must go if we are to achieve our goals in Panama. By sending Noriega into retirement with a legal golden parachute would have been the wrong step at the wrong time. So in terms of using newspapers all the time, used on news, used in common speaking. This is a code book, help you decode what's going on around you.
For the longest time, rubbernecking. I never knew what that meant.
Rubbernecking.
Rubbernecking. Anybody know what rubbernecking means? They talk about it on
When
traffic.
you're watching an accident and you're driving. And
right.
You slow
And
down.
it took me years to, what the hell they mean by rubbernecking? But that's what they mean.
That was like
Looking
you.
at an accident.
Yeah.
Did everybody take care of Brother Kaba? Everybody who's supposed to Brother Grandma right here.
Another one that's not in that book that I like to bring up because it's not used that often. And often the time when our children go into, say, the corporate world or the government, you'll hear the term used, you're on the short list.
Okay.
And that's another one I think
Yeah.
that's important. Because there you may be up
What
for
that mean?
promotion.
Yeah.
Up for promotion.
Yeah.
You're one of few people being
One of the few
considered.
people
Right.
who being considered.
Exactly.
I heard that term just yesterday. There's somebody in the speculation that Andrew Card, the chief of staff of President Bush, may step down early next year to take over the Treasury Department or something. And they said that a former official was on the short list, on Bush's short list, to replace Andrew Card. And they said it was particularly important because he's also been approached by Putin in Russia to take over the Russian oil company. So he has the distinction of being on two of the most important short lists in the world. Now, again, if you didn't know what the term means, you don't know what they're saying about him. I see your hand right there.
No, and you're right. They've used it several times just with this, gymnastics about the Supreme Court. Every time they would say, this is the short list.
Yeah, who's on the short list?
Have been coming out speaking about the need to keep science in our classrooms. In fact, Charlie Rose, just the other night, had two of the top scientists That was a very important. I don't know if you saw that, Ralph.
didn't know.
He had two of your top scientists in the United States interviewing him. And one fellow said, I was raised as a Darwinist. His colleague, and these guys have grown up together. You know, I think of class grows up together.
I did see that. Yes.
To me, I thought about you because that was real important. Because that sent a message there that the scientists in this country, or i.e. the power brokers, have said, wait a minute, you're only going to carry this other concept so far. Because it's like Gerald said, it's affecting us from a power perspective and money. And I think that's the thing that's going to slow this down. But right now, we're just in the midst of a revolution within the Republican Party. She had a question, Maya.
I was saying about Pat Buchanan. Where is he?
Speak loudly.
Pat Buchanan, is he a part of this new push, or is he the old Republican guard that...
Pat is kind of chameleon on Pat. Let me just, I use this phrase about Pat. Ladies, excuse my language. Pat is a whore.
Okay, now, that's two metaphors now.
You know the second one.
No, you asked the question, when do folks use these? He just used the first one. He's a comedian. What's that mean?
Change.
Okay, they call him a whore. We know what that is. Go ahead.
And I said chameleon on Plaid, which means he changes quite a bit. Pat is a Catholic by origin. He's a certain kind of conservative. He will fight against Bush, but other times he will align himself with that movement.
Right.
And as one person says, if you notice, he drives Mercedes. He lives in a big house. So Pat, I think Ambrose Lane has the language for that kind of person, is that he's a lapdog to power. And so he'll take a certain ideology that pays him off.
Right.
If you notice, every time there's an election, he gets into the game.
You're right.
And he gets paid. That's a nice hustle.
What? You know,
But before we go, did I answer your question?
the other reason, the whole Bush thing was the marriage of convenience. You had Republicans who needed a power base. The church looked for somebody to push them. And they got together and made believe the Republicans represented the religious right. But now it's breaking up. And it's particularly breaking up now because the real devious Republicans have started, the stuff they've been doing all along is now coming out. As yesterday, for instance,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
with the Patriot Act.
Yeah.
You know, it's been the New York Times now has blown the whistle on the fact that they've known for a whole year that the president has signed this particular order allowing the NSA to spy on Americans, not foreigners but on Americans. And a number of Republicans are upset about that. The fact that the Republican senators would say something means that their constituents, those behind them, are saying, you know, you got to stop this thing right where it is. So that whole, some of that's beginning to fall apart on Bush. You know, Bush also cannot go as far right as religious right wants him to go.
Right.
You know, they put, you know, he tried to finesse it by putting Harriet Miers in the Supreme Court. And they said, no, that's not what we want. You know, you need somebody more conservative. He's got a conservative now. And it may be by the time he gets to his hearings, more stuff out on him. Because it's coming out a little bit on him.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Put this in perspective in how they related. New Century America, the Illuminati, and what's the other?
Skull and crossbones.
Yeah, that's part. I guess that's part of Illuminati, and New Century America, and the
Religious right?
yeah, those two.
Well, the group for the New American Century, that was Bush's working group to get him elected. And they had decided before he came in office what they wanted to target. You know, there was a paper that was published in September